twisted dark tale of true life horror here at GraveyardDance.com. If you thought last week's story was dark, wait till you hear this one. I can't even think of any words to describe it other than really messed up. If you're really squeamish, you may want to back out now. It's not for the faint of heart. Today we go back to the year 1989. This was back when bands like Motley Crue, Rat and Poison were all killing it on MTV, and just before grunge took over and ruined music for the next several years. It was back when Ford, Chevy, and Dodge still all made great automobiles, and unfortunately for Monica Beerle, it was when she would choose Daniel Rakowitz to become her new roommate. 26-year-old Monica was a stunningly beautiful brunette who had a long and slender frame. She was also a very vivacious person who never met a stranger and almost always had a big happy smile, and usually tried to find the good in anyone she would meet, as was the case when she ran into Daniel for the first time selling marijuana in Tompkins Park Square. She had just moved to New York not very long before from a very small village in the Swiss Alps and wanted very badly to study at the Martha Graham Center of Contemporary Dance, but as anyone who has ever lived in New York knows, nothing there is cheap. It cost a lot of money to find a place to live and to fund her dream of ballet dance, and she didn't have it. To make ends meet, she chose a side hustle that many pretty girls fall back on to make ends meet, which was becoming an exotic dancer at Billy's Topless Bar. For Monica, it was just a way to keep a roof over her head until she made it in ballet. Still though, it was very hard to get by and she was struggling. One day while strolling out in the park, she met Daniel Rakowitz, who was out there peddling his wares, when he struck up a conversation with her and introduced her to pot for the first time. The two soon became friends. That's when she noticed he was homeless and living on the streets. The area they lived in was pretty rough at that time. CBGB's was just down the street where they had a huge punk following. Bands like Blondie, Joan Jett, and the Ramones would play to sold-out crowds every weekend. Chinatown was also nearby, which offered a very diverse type of crowds as well. New York was a lot of things back then, but one thing it wasn't was boring. He seemed like a good enough guy, a little eccentric perhaps, but he seemed like he had a good heart. He was always walking around with his pet rooster and trying to find ways of feeding his fellow homeless. Once he even found a way to buy 40 live chickens and somehow found a way to butcher them and make chicken soup for all his fellow homeless friends. You may want to booknote that mental image for what comes later in the story. She liked the fact that he was always trying to help out, so she asked him to come sleep on her couch for a night or two. That led to her asking him to become her roommate. She didn't have a clue how this would change her life, or how it would eventually end it in the most horrific of ways. Before I continue though, let me take a brief moment to ask you to please subscribe to our channel. A like on our video would help as well. It means so much for the growth of our channel. Our social links are in the description box below, along with our merch link. If I sell enough t-shirts of coffee mugs, maybe I can quit one of my 3-day jobs so I can focus more on my channel. Okay, where was I? Oh yeah, she invited him to move in. Bad move. Very bad move. Monica knew he was a bit odd, but she didn't know him long enough to know just how odd he was. By the time he had moved in, it was too late. At first, it was little things like him being a slob and never cleaning up after himself or watching TV from daylight to dark. Daniel hadn't been able to sit back on the couch and watch TV in years, so coming home and crashing out in the living room was a big thing for him. According to some who knew him, he was a big fan of daytime soaps. As the days went on, little things started to become big things to Monica. She didn't like the fact that he was going around telling his friends that she was his girlfriend. She also didn't like the fact that he was selling drugs from her apartment, and she was scared of being evicted over it. When he started talking about the new satanic religion he had just started called the Church of 966, and when he started killing animals and rubbing the blood on the walls and on his face, Monica had had enough. She didn't know how to get rid of him though. She decided to go talk to some of her friends and ask their advice. There was one problem with that though. One of her friends went back and told Daniel, and he was not about to be thrown out. He'd grown too accustomed to watching TV every day, and he wasn't gonna miss his soaps for anyone. Just because she was a nice person who had tried to help him but didn't want some shit bum trashing her place, this would spell the end for Monica Beerle. While she was out working one night, Daniel stayed home and began to get angrier and angrier about her getting ready to throw him out. Instead of trying to talk to her about it or even trying to find another place, he instead hid behind the door with a large steel rod and waited for her to enter the door. When she did, he hit her across the throat with all his might, so hard that it nearly decapitated her and killed her very quickly. For her sake, I hope it was before what he did next. Again, this story is one of our darker ones. If you're eating, especially something like barbecue or maybe a medium rare steak, you really should put down that fork and hit the stop button. If you don't, we can't be held accountable for you upchucking on your clothes. With that said and out of the way, he drug her to the bathroom and finished removing the head, which he took back to the kitchen, and he removed her brain and cooked it into a soup and claimed he really loved it. Side note here, what the actual Sam hell is wrong with this guy? He lived just blocks away from Chinatown. If he wanted something weird or strange, there's no end to some of the things in those shops. I've even seen spiders and squid sold in some of those places. Damn man. Moving on. After all that was done, he once again returned to the body and decided once again to try to help feed his fellow homeless. Yep, you heard that right. He made the rest of her remains into soup and went back to Tompkins Square Park and started handing out bowls of free food to the homeless and hungry who had absolutely no idea what they were eating. Her skull, teeth, and a few pounds of leftover remain he put in a bucket and left them at the Port Authority bus terminal. A few days later, when he started bragging about what he had done, and someone called the police and they went and found the grisly scene. This one of the actual photos of the kitchen crime scene. Thankfully for Daniel, the police got to him before an angry mob of disgusted homeless folks. They literally wanted to do him harm that I can't talk about or say for fear of getting another video blocked. You can use your own imagination though. A jury found him not guilty by reason of insanity, but still held him hopefully for good, this time at the Kirby Forensic Psychiatric Unit on Ward's Island. At least now he will probably be able to catch up on those soaps. On a side note though, if you or anyone you know trusts easily and are thinking about getting a roommate, show them this video. The same goes for getting a new boyfriend, girlfriend, or even making a new friend. Be careful out there. It's a crazy world we live in, and I don't want to see anything happen to any of you. Till next time, thanks for watching.